Okay, welcome. We're going to sort of take it to the next step here. If you saw the first video on coiling the new harness in this series, this gets into, well, we've got the harness done up, we've got it stitched, we've got our hard points, our attachment points in place, and so now it's just a matter of configuring it for the rocket. Now this is really the most involved step, but once you get your center points mapped out, it's really incidental. You know, this is easy to do, easy to use. In this case, we've got our harness already attached to our motor case. This is a 4-grain CTI case, 75 millimeter CTI case, set up with 2 grains. So this is where we're gonna put it for this particular rocket. And so we want our coil to set somewhere in this neighborhood. So that means if we were to measure this out, of course we get about 94 inches or so in each one of these coils with a 3/8 inch harness. So I'm going to cut it in fourths there. I'm going to go to 46, and then half of that would be 23, just because we've got limited amount of space within the camera to do this. So we're going to go about 24 feet here. I'm going to assume this is the center point. Well, let's see here. This would go, okay. That would be our center point. Put this in the winder and then start coiling it up. Okay. Now, this is pretty good here. We could take it down a little bit farther. And I'll do that just to illustrate. So that's full coil. But we want to move this down some. So one of the easiest ways to do that is just to leave it in the winder. I get this back in. And then just pull it right back out. Okay. And of course, we want to take the coil that way. So all we've got to do then is pull a little bit through, just sort of approximate the amount. Whatever your length is, of course, cut it in half because you're starting from the center. Okay, and then we'll pull it back up. Okay, now that moved it down a little bit. That's probably a comfortable length that gives you enough tag here to get the coil out of the way, but it gets it close enough that you're getting it compacted. So we'll go ahead and pull out our knob, take our first half out, and then go ahead and tape it up. Now in this case, this rocket hasn't been ground tested yet. So these in a way are sort of just temporary anyway. That one's not going to be long enough. Don't have to be particularly neat about this anyway, but neatness does sort of count. You have a lot of extra tape that really could cause you more problems than anything. So that's our first one on this half, so we'll flip it over. And then use our so there's the first one, and that's long, so we're going to trim it. Okay. Okay. So that's the first one. And it depends. Usually I sort of like to roll them all up and then come back and mark them in case you got any changes. And we'll do it that way for this video. And then we'll do the next one. Again, you're about 46 inches or so. I think I want about 24. We'll do 23 or so. Pull this out. Okay, remember 94, you cut that in half, which will be the middle. That's 46, you cut that in half again. That's 23. So if we double this over and come out here, about 23 inches. You see the 23, that should get us there. So there's going to be our middle. Opposite direction, so we want to come in this way, based with it flattened like this, or turn it that way. Because obviously if you flip it over, you come in from the other direction. Starting to tighten up. So yeah, that's a pretty good guess. The 23 measurement works out pretty good, times 4 to get you to the distance you need. Okay, see how that? And we're there. Now, I'm going to do this one in reverse. I'm going to go ahead, not reverse, I'm going to go ahead and tape up the center point on this one. And we'll just do that by taking a little piece of the green. A little bit neater on our cut. What I'll do is I'll just leave this in place. Just pull this out, it should stay in place. Just take it slow right here. And so that right there is going to be the center point on that one. That's really crooked. Starting to get snug now. This one's going to tighten up about how we want it. So we'll pull our knob. We've got our center point, and now we can mark this one to get it ready for our ground test. And then at this point you can see what's going to happen by swapping the way we wind them, clockwise, then counterclockwise, depending on which side is turned over. Then we can stack them like that. And then they fit right in our airframe. So we'll do these others and we'll come back. Okay, we are down to the last coil before the swivel for the drogue. It's obvious that we're not going to get a full coil out of this, so what do? Obviously, about one thing you can do is split the difference. Now, in this case, with the drogue laying up in here, we're going to leave some leader here. But here, we're pretty much going to coil this whole thing. And so you don't have to measure it. All you got to do is divide it in two. Just like this, okay? We know that's going to be our center point right away. So we'll go ahead and cut this. Maybe a little bit this way. Let's see here, we want to leave a little bit extra here, just a touch, a little bit extra here on that end. So we'll go ahead and cut a section because we know it's going to be our permanent center is going to be right there. And there we go. Make sure we don't have it twisted. That's the key thing that happens. Sometimes you don't see that it's twisted until you start turning, pulling it. We flip this over each time, so that's why we've been winding it the same way every time. That's a little trick if you like right-handed, but if you're lefty, then you'd want to flip it the other way all the time, or just go back and forth because you got slots going either direction to do that. Okay, so there we go. Okay, remember we left a little bit here, so we're down to it. And as you can see in the slots, we're not using the full diameter of the coil. And if, for instance, you wanted to make 3-inch coils instead of 4-inch coils, then you could certainly use this approach. Go ahead and pull this. There it is. Now you want to be careful. It's got to be a little bit more careful not to dislodge the coil, and we sort of did that in this case. So we'll tighten it back up again. It's that easy. Okay. Tape that down. Now we've got a cute little coil. As you can see, you probably do this with one piece of tape. Be in place, but believe you me, it's going to come apart anyway. Okay, so that takes care of our stack of coils all the way up to our drogue attachment point. And you can see how that goes together. If you want to leave a little bit of extra here so this sits more in the center, yeah, I certainly can. But that's not critical. So now the last coil we've got to do is the one between the very end and the drogue. And if you recall, we wanted about, let's see here, I don't think we talked about it actually, so you can't recall it. We want about 12 inches there because the drogue is going to sit in here. So that means we don't want the center from here, we want the center from here. So we'll hold this like this. Pull this out, and then we want to measure from here because we don't want to try to wrap up, coil up the stitched area. So we want right there, thereabouts, and so we want the center here. So our center ends up being right there. Again, no need to measure. It's not going to fit one coil anyway. Piece with our scissors. And then there's our center point. Again, check it, make sure it's not twisted. You're not going to be able to wind a twisted coil, or you're not going to be able to wind the coil in the twisted harness. There we go. Again, it really doesn't matter which way in this case. You can keep it going that way if you'd like. We can. That would mean doing it from the other side. Okay. Then now we're going to twist counterclockwise. Okay. So we're up there. We've got about 12 inches there. We won't quite have a full coil, that's okay. It's almost. Okay, and that is it. Spread these out where you can see them. There you go. Now that takes care of our drogue harness. We may do another video in the series just to do the main, but essentially your main and your drogue are going to be very similar. The concept's the same. Often the hard point for the nose cone or the parachute is roughly in the same place. Hope you enjoyed this. Certainly reach out to us via comments if you have any questions, and we'll see you at the next launch.